Hello everyone, I'm Finn and welcome to my journey of a life closer to boat building and sailing. So I've got quite an exciting episode coming up for you guys where quite a few different things are really starting to happen in the project. So firstly, I'm going to get the new full width sole beam dry fitted down here in the saloon, so I'm then able to transfer some lines across and enable me to start making some templates for the stainless steel water tanks that are going to be fitted in the bilges. And then we're going to move on to getting the templates made for the cap and rails, and I'll start marking out and cutting them out of the oak boards that we collected from Cockpit sawmill in the last video. And I'm also going to discuss with you guys some of the other things that are going on behind the scenes that are playing a vital role in keeping up with the progress of this project. So be sure to stick around to hear about what's been going on over the last couple of weeks. Alright, so we're getting to the point with the project now where I'm going to really have to start planning all of the systems that are going to need to be installed into the boat before I can really get cracking on with the fit out of the interior. So in the last video I dismantled all of the saloon assembly, which is where I'm now sitting, as the sole was split into 3 different levels. So on the port side of the boat, here on my right hand side, we had about a 6-inch step up just from the very narrow corridor that ran between the galley through the saloon into the fore cabin. So this corridor was only about 2 foot wide, and those boards were at the same level as the floor in the galley, and there was an L-shaped step up on the starboard side where it pretty much only had space for your feet to sit. Now to me it just seemed pointless to have this change in level, as it meant that the usable floor space was really reduced by just having a very narrow kind of corridor that ran between the galley and the fore cabin. So by dropping the centre sole beam to create a level floor, it's turned the usable floor space from about 2 feet to around 5 feet wide. So now I've got that floor beam temporarily bolted in the boat to make sure it follows nice and level all the way through. I've then given the bilges a couple of coats of concrete bilge paint to give it all some good protection and to keep it nice and clean down below, ready for when I get the tanks fitted. So now all that paint's cured, I've just made this pretty basic cross-section template, which is going to be for the 2 water tanks that are going to be fitted underneath the sole board. So this cross-section template represents the forward and aft section of these tanks, and then obviously the side panels have to just be infilled. So these tanks are about 80 centimeters long and they're 75 centimeters wide and about 50 centimeters deep. So on a pretty rough calculation, I've worked these tanks out to hold a capacity of about 180 to 200 litres, but that might vary a little bit once we've actually received the finished tanks. So there's also been a couple of other things going on behind the scenes that are really difficult for me to film and show you guys, as most of it's just been done over email. But I've been in contact with a company called Ultramax Power Systems, who manufacture and supply lithium iron phosphate batteries, and we've been having discussions in how they could possibly work with me on the project and potentially donate some of the batteries that I'm going to need to be running all of the systems that are going to be fitted in the boat. So as well as the discussions going on with Ultramax, I've also been in conversations with a really great company called Climbing Van, and working closely with their naval architects, we've been carefully designing the full electrical system that's going to be capable of running all of the appliances we're going to need to have installed on the boat. So as it stands, I'm looking to raise about £7,200 in order to pay for all of the electrical systems that I'm going to need to get fitted on the boat, and to get the first 2 water tanks made and installed on the boat, which is going to allow me to really get on with fitting out the interior and moving on with some of the next stages of the project. So far my savings are at around £3,000. So I still need to raise £5,200. So if there's any of you guys watching the videos that feel you would like to support the project and have a couple of pounds that you would be happy to donate to help towards purchasing some of the appliances and the tanks that I need to get fitted into the boat, every little helps, and your support will be more than appreciated. So if you feel you would like to donate to the project, then head to the description below the video where I'll include the relevant links to do so. So to describe a fair line on the underside of these templates, marking the overhang for the cap and rails, I'm using a 3/4 inch block with a pencil taped to it, just running that around the face of the bulwarks with the pencil pushing up into the underside of this plywood, and that is then giving me a nice accurate fair line that I can then cut out this outside face to. So now I've got all of the templates made for the capping rails on the port side. It's time to get them all laid out on the oak boards and trying to position them all to match the curve of the shear line to the grain of these boards. So hopefully we're going to be able to do that pretty closely, as we've got quite a nice sweep to each one of these boards. So now I'm just going to get the templates laid on and then I can get cutting. Right, so I'm now sitting down in where the cockpit is going to be dropped into the deck of the boat, and luckily all of the framing that was what was holding all of the hatch up that was in this place originally, all of that framing was still pretty good. There's a bit of water damage to it, but with a good clean up I've managed to save most of the timbers. It was just the forward and aft timber that had suffered quite a lot from water damage and had quite a substantial amount of rot in the top face. So I've recut these with some fresh oak. But before I get too carried away gluing any of this in and really getting it fitted, I've got to make a start on planning and marking out the position of where some of the systems are going to be installed down in the boat. So down here, directly below the cockpit, we've got the stern tube, which is about 4 feet below my feet here. So I've got quite a large void underneath the cockpit where I'm going to be able to build the engine room. It's going to be a place where a lot of my systems and some of the components for running some of the systems on the boat are going to be installed. So before I get too carried away with getting the cockpit installed, it's time to start marking out for some of the bulkheads that I've got to be fitted down into the engine room, and then from there I can then start building some of the shelving that is going to house things like the batteries and the inverter, all those sort of systems that have got to be installed on the boat. The first thing is to start marking out to get a thwartship's bulkhead fitted just aft of the stern tube gland, get that all cut and fitted and sealed in, which will give me a good storage locker that will be accessed through the cockpit floor, and then from there I can work forward towards the engine, and firstly building in the battery box and then start building some of the cupboards for the rest of the systems. Alright, so I've just made the first template for the athwartship's bulkhead that is going to be fitted underneath the cockpit floor. Now this bulkhead is going to be the divider between the cockpit locker, and then forward of this bulkhead will be where the house battery bank will be located. So I've just made this template slightly undersized, so using my 3-inch marking block, running this round the inside edge of the hull, I can then transfer my line. I can then make a mark on the other side of the block, so when I then lay this template onto my plywood that I'm going to be using for the bulkhead, all I've got to do is do the reverse by laying my block back onto the template, lining up with the mark that I just made, and then describing in on the other side of the marking block, which is where it's sat against the hull, giving me my line for where I need to cut this template to. Right, so that's all of the capping rails cut from the oak that I picked up in the last episode from Cockpit sawmills. Now it's all cut oversized by the width. It's all currently about 7 or 8 inches wide, and the capping rails are only going to be 6 inches wide overall, and it's all planed and thicknessed down to 40 millimeters. So now I've just clamped all of the pieces up together nice and tight, just as being oak has a tendency to move. So I'm going to leave it all clamped up like this on the bench for a couple of weeks inside the workshop in the warmth, just to allow in all of the fibres in the oak just to relax, and hopefully when I then cut them down to their final size, I'm not going to get too much movement in the oak with it springing back as I'm taking more meat off of the boards. But that's about all I've got time for in this video, and I'm feeling really happy with the progress that I've made over the last few weeks. That feels really great to finally be working on a few different things on the boat, rather than just focusing on one main project at a time. Now to be planning all of the electrical systems is really a great feeling, and quite exciting to get all that stuff bought and installed into the boat. Now hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to put in the first order of phase 1 of getting all the electrical systems fitted in the boat. So that'll be things like getting the batteries installed and running the majority of the cables and the variety of components that have got to be fitted to connect all of the various things up in the boat. So hopefully that is all going to be happening in the next video. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell beside it to get notified of my next release. And I just want to say a massive shout out and a huge thanks to all of you guys that have shown so much support with your donations towards the project via Patreon or PayPal or my Amazon wish list, or just commenting, liking and subscribing to the channel. Your support really is overwhelming, and from the bottom of my heart I cannot thank each and every one of you enough. So if there's any of you guys that are following along that feel you would like to support the project, then head to the description below the video and I'll include all of the relevant links to do so. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.